Every man wants to understand women, but most are asking the wrong questions. They focus on what to say, what to wear, how to text. But if you really want the upper hand, you have to stop looking at the surface and start recognizing the deeper truths, the hidden gaps, the unspoken patterns, because whether she admits it or not, every woman has emotional vulnerabilities. And when you learn to see them clearly, not to exploit but to understand, you gain power that most men will never touch. This isn't about manipulation, it's about awareness. Because the Stoic man doesn't seek to dominate, he seeks to navigate. With clarity, with calm, with control, he observes what others overlook. He stays silent where others speak too much. He notices the subtle tension behind her confidence, the insecurity beneath her attention-seeking, the soft spots she tries to mask with attitude or charm. And when he sees those things, he doesn't react, he repositions. Here's the hard truth: most women don't even understand their own emotional triggers. They're reacting from years of conditioning, cultural pressure, and unresolved emotion. And if you walk into that blind, you'll either get manipulated or become the man she disrespects. But the Stoic man, he learns her weaknesses not to take advantage, but to hold the frame, to stand tall when she tests him, to walk away when she crosses lines, and that restraint, that strength, is what she'll crave more than anything else. So let me ask you, have you ever seen a woman self-destruct a good thing just to test your resolve? Have you ever been too forgiving, too soft, too confused when all she needed was a firm boundary? Drop it in the comments. Because what we're about to reveal in this video isn't just 9 weaknesses. It's 9 keys to understanding the female mind through the lens of Stoic power. Let's begin. Every woman, no matter how independent she claims to be, has one core emotional craving she rarely admits: to feel chosen. Not just desired physically, but selected emotionally above others. This isn't about validation in the shallow sense. It's deeper. It's ancient. It's about feeling special, like she alone stands out to a man of value. That need drives much of her behavior, from how she texts to how she tests. And if you don't understand this need, you'll either feed it too much or get controlled by it. Most men make the mistake of handing out emotional validation too freely. They compliment too often, reassure constantly, and try to prove their loyalty at every turn. And what happens? She stops respecting it, not because she's cruel, but because human nature doesn't value what's overly available. When you constantly validate a woman before she earns it, you're not making her feel chosen. You're making yourself seem eager. That kills polarity. A Stoic man understands the difference between appreciation and pedestal. He can make a woman feel seen without making her feel like he's beneath her. He gives attention sparingly and with intention. His validation isn't a currency, it's a reward. And because it's rare, it's powerful. She begins to crave it, not because he's playing games, but because he values his energy too much to give it without awareness. This is where power flips, when you stop needing her to feel good about yourself and start making her earn your attention. Most women are surrounded by men trying to get picked, compliments, likes, DMs, all noise. But when you step back, when you offer stillness instead of pursuit, when you make her feel that your time and attention must be earned, suddenly you become the one she wants to impress. You've reversed the frame. But here's the deeper truth. If you over-validate, she won't feel chosen. She'll feel smothered. Because to be chosen, she must sense that you had other options, that you chose her not because you needed her, but because she aligned with your standards. That's when a woman feels the most alive in your presence. Not when you give her constant reassurance, but when she realizes you don't give that energy to everyone. Stoicism teaches that control over yourself is greater than control over others. And when it comes to validation, this principle is everything. The man who is unaffected by a woman's demands for attention, who stays calm when she pushes for emotional reassurance, who holds his center when she tries to test his commitment. This man is rare, and women feel it immediately. They respect it, they submit to it, not out of fear, but out of deep instinct. So here's your challenge. Are you giving your validation away to feel accepted? Or are you holding it like a sword, only drawing it when it's right, sharp, and necessary? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because when you make a woman feel chosen without chasing, you don't just gain her attraction, you gain her respect. We live in the age of attention addiction. Social media, constant messaging, digital dopamine, it's all rewiring the female mind to equate attention with value. And once that cycle begins, many women don't just want attention. They need it. They thrive on it. They panic without it. But here's where it gets interesting. When you're the one man who doesn't feed that need, you instantly stand out. Not because you're withholding, but because you're in control. Most men don't realize how predictable they are. They react instantly to her texts, like her photos religiously, and give compliments as if it's their job. She doesn't have to earn any of it, and the moment she gets bored, she ghosts them without thinking twice. Why? Because they were never a challenge. They were entertainment, disposable. But the man who goes quiet, the one who breaks the pattern, he creates something she's not used to: uncertainty. Silence is misunderstood by most men. They think being silent means being ignored, forgotten, or weak. But Stoic silence is none of those things. It's a message, a weapon, a mirror. It says, I'm not here to fill your boredom, I'm not playing your game, I'm not trying to be picked. And that silence? It echoes louder than any line you could have said. It creates space, and in that space, her mind starts racing. She starts checking her phone, wondering why you haven't replied, asking herself, did I say something wrong? She replays the last conversation. She double-checks your status, and just like that, the power shifts. Because you're no longer reacting to her, you've made her react to you. That's not manipulation, that's clarity. You've shown her that you are not addicted to the same thing she is. You've shown her you're free. And here's the beauty of that. Once a woman feels a void, she seeks to fill it, but only if the man behind the silence is grounded, intentional, and unavailable in a calm, not cold way. If your silence comes from strength, she'll chase. If it comes from fear or insecurity, she'll walk. So silence alone isn't enough. It must come from an anchored frame, a frame that says, I speak when it matters, I engage when it's real. Attention loses value when it's easy to get. That's why Stoic men give it selectively, purposefully, with presence. They understand that a woman truly appreciates your attention only when she knows it isn't guaranteed. Only when it's rare does it feel real. And when it feels real, she stops playing games and starts revealing her authentic self. That's when a real connection can begin on your terms. So let me ask you, are you still rewarding inconsistency with attention? Are you giving your time to someone just because she's pretty? Or are you teaching her to earn your presence with peace, effort, and feminine energy? Drop it in the comments. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is absolutely nothing at all. Many men underestimate how deeply women are wired for social comparison. From the moment a woman opens her phone in the morning, she's bombarded with images of other women. Better dressed, more followed, seemingly more adored. This constant comparison doesn't just shape how she views herself, it shapes how she views you. Whether she realizes it or not, she's always assessing, how do I stack up, and who am I standing next to? This is where your value as a Stoic man either calms her chaos or amplifies it. A man's status isn't just about money or looks. It's about how he moves, how he reacts, how others respond to him. A Stoic man doesn't chase clout, but somehow clout seems to follow him. Why? Because he's not performing for approval. He's walking in alignment. That energy is felt especially by women who are quietly measuring where you stand in the social hierarchy. And if she sees that others respect you, that other women admire you, that your name carries quiet weight, she feels both safe and challenged. That's the sweet spot. But here's where her weakness kicks in. Once she knows you're a man of value, her own insecurities start surfacing. She may test you more, act cold, get passive-aggressive. Why? Because her fear of not being enough compared to other women you could choose starts eating at her. It's not rational. It's emotional. And if you don't understand what's happening, you'll think she's losing interest when really, she's afraid she already has. That's why your response matters. The moment you start over-reassuring her, you kill the polarity. You don't need to compete with the fantasy she has in her head. You just need to remain grounded in reality. When a woman gets anxious from comparison, the Stoic man doesn't react emotionally. He stays firm. He shows her that his attention isn't based on the noise of Instagram models or fleeting metrics, but on character, peace, and consistency. That calms her, that grounds her, that reminds her why she chose you. Ironically, her obsession with comparison also makes her deeply attracted to a man who doesn't play that game. A man who doesn't flex, doesn't brag, doesn't try to impress, because that kind of man makes her feel something she doesn't get online: certainty. She starts craving the stillness in your presence more than the validation in her feed. And that right there is where real emotional connection begins, beyond status, beyond show. But if you, as a man, base your identity on your external status alone, you become fragile. You'll try to outdo her comparisons, you'll start performing to win her back, and in doing so, you lose your core. The Stoic path is different. It's silent dominance, quiet authority. It's understanding that real power isn't what you show, it's what you withhold. That's the kind of status that outlasts trends and outshines competition. So ask yourself, do you shrink when she compares? Or do you stand firm and let her rediscover why she was drawn to you in the first place? Drop your answer in the comments, because the moment you stop chasing status and start living by principle is the moment her insecurity turns into desire. One of the most triggering things for a woman, especially in today's attention-saturated world, is being ignored, and I'm not talking about manipulation or ghosting. I'm talking about real detachment, the kind where you're not cold, but you're unavailable, not angry, just uninterested, not rude, simply focused. This form of silence isn't rejection, it's revelation. It shows her that she's no longer the center of your mental universe. And for many women, that realization hits harder than any argument ever could. Most women are used to being chased, complimented, noticed. They're addicted to being observed. It's not entirely their fault. It's how the modern world rewards their image. But when a man who once gave them energy suddenly becomes still, it creates panic. Not because she loved him deeply, but because she was addicted to being seen by him. And now, she's invisible to a man who once watched her closely. That's not just silence. It's psychological withdrawal, and it forces her to respond. Detachment isn't absence. It's presence turned inward. The Stoic man doesn't disappear when ignored. He recalibrates. He doesn't fight for attention. He redirects it to himself, his goals, his peace. And that shift in focus causes a ripple effect. Suddenly, she's wondering what happened. Why isn't he texting back? Did I lose him? Is he seeing someone else? The feminine mind craves connection. When that thread is cut by a man who's strong enough to walk away calmly, she feels it deeply. This is why detachment must come from power, not pettiness. If you withdraw to punish her, she feels resentment. If you withdraw to protect your peace, she feels curiosity. And curiosity breeds attraction. She starts replaying conversations, scrolling through old messages, maybe even stalking your feed. She may test you with silence of her own. But here's the difference. You're okay with the quiet because your self-worth isn't tied to her response. Here's what most men miss. She doesn't chase you because you're playing games. She chases because your energy changed. You're no longer reaching, no longer performing, no longer giving away what used to be freely hers. That shift is powerful. But only if it's real. If you're pretending not to care while obsessively watching your phone, she'll sense it. But if you're truly detached, genuinely at peace without her validation, you become rare, and rare is irresistible. Detachment is also your defense. It protects you from over-investing in someone who hasn't earned your effort. It keeps your emotions regulated and your frame intact. And when she sees that she can't shake you with mood swings, drama, or withdrawal, she either levels up or falls away. Either way, you win. Not because you're trying to win, but because you refuse to lose yourself. So let me ask you, have you ever seen a woman panic when you stopped chasing? Have you watched her energy shift the moment you stepped back into your own power? Drop it in the comments. Because the man who isn't afraid to be forgotten is the one she'll remember forever. Every man has been there. The sudden shift in tone, the unexpected tears, the irrational argument that seems to come out of nowhere. You didn't do anything wrong, and yet you find yourself in the middle of emotional chaos. Most men panic. They explain, they apologize, they try to fix it. But the Stoic man, he doesn't flinch. He doesn't get pulled into the storm because he understands something most don't. Her emotion is not your emergency. Women feel deeply, and when those emotions rise, they need to be expressed. But here's the trap. If you meet her emotional chaos with your own emotional chaos, everything escalates. She doesn't feel safer. She feels unstable. She may scream louder, push harder, not because she wants to hurt you, but because she's trying to find your edges. And if she can't find them, if you stay grounded instead of reactive, she feels something more powerful than agreement: containment. A Stoic man knows that calm isn't weakness. It's control. When she tests you emotionally, she's not just being dramatic. On a subconscious level, she's asking, "Can you handle me?" And if you fold, if you react, if you shout back or collapse into apology mode, she loses respect, even if she gets what she says she wanted. But if you breathe, stay present, and respond from grounded clarity, something shifts. Her emotional energy deflates, her testing stops, you've disarmed her. This doesn't mean you dismiss her feelings, it means you don't let them control your state. You listen, but you don't mirror. You acknowledge, but you don't absorb. And the irony? The more emotionally grounded you are, the more emotionally safe she feels. Because in your calm, she finds a container, a frame, a boundary. You stop being her emotional opponent and become her emotional anchor. Women are not looking for a man who out-argues them. They're looking for a man who doesn't lose himself in the heat. A man who can sit in silence while she processes and only speak when it adds value. That's rare, that's respected, and that's remembered. Because in a world full of reactive boys, the Stoic man who keeps his emotional posture commands a different kind of attention. The kind that doesn't fade after the storm. Of course, this isn't easy. Emotional triggers will try to pull you into old patterns. But this is where the discipline begins. Breathwork, delayed response, inner stillness. These aren't soft skills, they're battlefield tools, and each time you choose calm over chaos, you sharpen your edge. You become the man who can't be moved. And in that stillness, she finds the respect she never gave to men who tried to control her feelings. So let me ask you, when she got loud, did you get louder? Or did you get calmer? Did you try to win the fight, or did you remove yourself from the war? Drop your story in the comments. Because the man who stays still while others fall apart is the one she'll follow without a word. Rejection is the one thing most people fear. But few talk about how women respond to it, especially when it comes from a man. You see, women are used to being the ones who say no. They're used to filtering, ignoring, swiping. But when a high-value man, calm, grounded, stoic, looks her in the eye and says no, something short-circuits in her brain. Not because he was rude, but because he was the one person who didn't fear losing her. That simple act, rejection with dignity, signals something powerful. This man has options. He's not afraid of walking away, he's not emotionally starving, and most importantly, he's not trying to force a connection where one doesn't belong. Women feel this immediately, and while some may feel offended in the moment, deep down they respect it. Why? Because boundaries are attractive, and most women aren't used to men who enforce them. The truth is, a woman's inability to handle rejection often reveals her deeper insecurity. She may lash out, call you arrogant, or label you emotionally unavailable. But what's really happening? She's been denied something she thought was guaranteed: your interest. And when that illusion breaks, the ego reacts. But that's not your problem to solve. A stoic man doesn't soften the truth to avoid discomfort. He speaks clearly, kindly, and walks away if necessary. Saying no doesn't make you cold, it makes you consistent. It shows that your energy is earned, not owed. And when a woman sees that, she knows she can't manipulate her way into your life. She has to bring something of real value: peace, respect, feminine softness. If not, she gets nothing. That standard might scare off some women. Let them leave. Because the ones who stay, they're the ones who are truly ready to follow a grounded masculine lead. And ironically, the very rejection that triggers her at first often becomes the reason she comes back. Because the man who says no stands out in a world of men who say yes to everything. He's not easily impressed, not easily moved, and that subtle resistance builds tension, mystery, and desire. She starts to wonder, what does he know about himself that makes him so sure he doesn't need me? And that curiosity draws her in deeper than any compliment ever could. But here's the test. Can you say no without guilt? Can you walk away from attention, affection, or validation that doesn't align with your standards? That's the real stoic power. Not just withholding for strategy, but saying no because you genuinely know your worth. Because you've done the internal work to understand what peace costs and who's worth disrupting it for. So let me ask you, when was the last time you said no and meant it? Did she respect you more or disappear completely? Either way, drop it in the comments. Because every time you choose your values over her validation, you become the man she didn't know she needed, but now can't stop thinking about. Most men get blindsided by it. The sarcasm, the mood swings, the subtle jabs, the little challenges disguised as jokes. They think it's random, but it's not. It's a test. A woman doesn't always know she's doing it, but she does it for one reason: to feel your strength. She pushes to see if you bend. She pokes to see if you break, and when you fail to set a boundary, you fail to show leadership. That's when attraction dies. Not with a bang, but with silent, growing disappointment. A woman may respect your looks, your job, or your money, but if she can emotionally move you at will, she doesn't feel safe around you. And when she doesn't feel safe, she pulls away. Not because she wants to leave, but because your foundation doesn't feel solid. The Stoic man understands this dynamic deeply. He knows that every boundary she crosses is an opportunity, not to dominate, but to anchor. to hold firm, calm, non-reactive, unshaken. You see, her boundary testing isn't disrespect, it's a request. She's asking, "Are you strong enough to lead me?" And when you fold, when you argue, justify, or beg, you say, "No, I'm still seeking your approval." But when you calmly hold the line, when you say, "That's not acceptable," and stand by it without drama, she feels something primal. She may resist in the moment, but deep down, she trusts you more. That's the paradox. She might argue with your boundary, but she craves it. She might roll her eyes, but inside she's thinking, "Finally, a man who's not afraid to check me." Not with force, but with presence, with clarity, with self-respect so solid that it extends into the room like gravity. That energy, it's rare, it's magnetic, and most men never develop it because they're afraid of upsetting her. But here's the truth. If your peace depends on keeping her happy at all times, you've already lost your power. You are not her emotional babysitter. You are her frame, her mirror, her anchor, and sometimes she'll test just to confirm you're still standing there. That doesn't mean you become cold or controlling. It means you lead with principle, not fear. You enforce boundaries not to punish her, but to protect the relationship from collapsing into chaos. And when she sees that you don't waver, her testing slows down. The drama fades. She softens. Because deep down, she wants to let go, to relax. But she can only do that when she's with a man who won't collapse under her pressure. The moment she realizes that you can lead her through her own emotional storm without joining it, is the moment she stops fighting you and starts trusting you. So let me ask you this. When she tested your boundary last time, did you hold the line, or did you fold to avoid the discomfort? Drop it in the comments. Because when a woman feels your strength, not in your fists but in your frame, she finally feels safe enough to follow. Not every beautiful woman is whole. In fact, many are silently hollow. No matter how perfect the selfies, how curated the lifestyle, or how loud the confidence seems, inside they feel the emptiness. And rather than face that void, many women unconsciously hand it to someone else. You. They expect you to fill what they haven't dealt with. To be their source of peace, their purpose, their emotional foundation. But here's the truth. No man, no matter how stoic, can save a woman from herself. This is how it happens. She's charming at first, magnetic, maybe even nurturing. But slowly you begin to feel the weight. The emotional demands increase. Her validation becomes a moving target. Her moods swing unpredictably. And when you ask what's wrong, she doesn't have an answer. Because even she doesn't know. Her emptiness is ancient. And if you try to fix it, it will swallow you whole. A stoic man recognizes this pattern early. He doesn't take her emptiness personally. He doesn't confuse it with love. He sees it for what it is, projection. She wants him to carry what she hasn't healed, to regulate her emotions, to absorb her pain. But a man in his power doesn't play therapist, savior, or emotional sponge. He plays one role only, grounded masculine presence. And if that's not enough for her, he lets her go. You cannot give someone peace when they are addicted to their own chaos. You can invite them into your world, but you cannot carry them through it. A woman who lacks fulfillment will constantly test yours. She'll challenge your hobbies, your discipline, your calm. Not because she hates them, but because she doesn't have them. Your stability becomes a mirror to her instability. And that's when blame begins. If you're not careful, you'll internalize her projection. You'll start walking on eggshells. You'll feel guilty for being emotionally steady. You'll over-explain, over-reassure, and slowly shrink. All because you thought it was your job to keep her full. But a stoic man never shrinks to make someone else feel bigger. He holds his space kindly, firmly, and if she grows from that example, beautiful. If not, He lets the distance reveal the truth. The danger is this: a woman who hasn't found herself will expect you to lose yourself for her. She'll call it love, but what she really wants is rescue. And once you jump into her storm, you become part of the wreckage. That's why Stoic men remain observant. They don't just look at beauty or chemistry, they look for depth, emotional maturity, wholeness, because a woman who is full within doesn't drain a man, she fuels him. So ask yourself, are you trying to complete someone who hasn't even begun her own work? Drop your answer in the comments, because the man who refuses to carry what isn't his is the one who never loses himself to someone else's emptiness. Here's a truth most men never learn. Women are drawn to what they can't fully define, not because they're irrational, but because they're wired to feel before they think. Where most men crave facts, women crave experience. Where most men want answers, women want emotion. This is why logic often falls flat when you're trying to make her understand. But mystery, that pulls her in deeper. Because in mystery, she gets to project, and projection is the most seductive story of all. The man who over-explains, overshares, and over-justifies kills attraction with every word. Not because he's wrong, but because he's predictable. She no longer has to wonder. And when there's no wondering, there's no tension. The Stoic man understands that less is more. He speaks when it matters. He reveals only what's needed. He lets silence speak louder than persuasion. And in doing so, he creates an open loop in her mind that keeps spinning long after he leaves the room. Women don't fall for logic, they fall into stories. And the best story is the one they write about you in their own head. That's why mystery is magnetic. It activates her imagination. She starts asking questions. What's he thinking? What's he hiding? Why doesn't he try harder? And every question pulls her deeper. Not because you're being cold, but because you're leaving room for her to engage, to chase, to wonder. But mystery must be real, not a tactic. You don't withhold because you're insecure. You withhold because you're secure. You're not hiding. You're selective. You don't need to be known instantly. You're not auditioning. You're allowing space to earn access. That energy is rare, and women sense the difference between a man who's silent out of fear and one who's silent out of mastery. Here's the paradox. The more you explain, the more you kill curiosity. The more you perform, the less she imagines. But the man who is self-contained, who doesn't feel the need to fill every silence, who doesn't reveal his entire story on the first few dates, that man becomes unforgettable. Not because he's mysterious for effect, but because he is complete without needing to prove it. Fantasy always trumps logic in the emotional realm. And the man who knows how to live just behind the curtain, visible but never fully revealed, will hold her attention far longer than the one who tries to win her over with facts and effort. The Stoic man understands this. He doesn't speak to fill space. He lets space speak for him. That's where the power is, not in what you say, but in what she feels when you say nothing at all. So let me ask you, are you trying to be understood, or are you strong enough to be felt? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because in a world full of men explaining themselves, the man who keeps them wondering is the one they never forget. If you've made it through all 9, congratulations. You've just separated yourself from 95% of men. Because most guys don't study this. They don't observe. They react. They chase. They collapse. But the Stoic man watches, learns, leads. He sees these weaknesses not as weapons, but as awareness. And in that awareness, he builds a new kind of power. One that doesn't beg, doesn't bend, and never needs to boast. Remember, this wasn't about playing games. It was about learning the emotional chessboard most men never notice. Women aren't evil. They're emotional. And if you meet emotion with emotion, you lose. But if you meet it with presence, clarity, and calm, you win, without lifting a finger. The stronger your internal frame, the faster her chaos settles. Not because you fixed her, but because she finally feels safe enough to stop performing. So here's my final question to you. Which of these 9 truths hit you the hardest? Which one are you already mastering? And which one exposed your blind spot? Drop it in the comments. Because masculinity isn't found in pretending to know everything. It's found in facing what you were afraid to see, and I'll leave you with this. Power doesn't chase. Power attracts. And the man who leads himself leads everyone else without trying. This is Masculine Stoic Mind. If this resonated with you, share it, rewatch it, embody it, because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more men like you.